I got this one friend. Every single time he interviews, he gets an offer for a job. I don't understand that, bruh. How you get an offer every time you interview?
That's me.
You get an offer every time?
If I get a chance to get to the interview, I get the job. If I don't get to the interview, like if I just get we went in a different direction, email, whatever, that's fine. But if I can get an interview, I've never had an interview and not gotten the job that I've interviewed for.
Are you serious?
I promise you, I've never have.
Now that I think about it, hold on, let me reflect.
I never have. That's my belief. As long as I can get to an interview, I can get the job. Once I can start talking and like putting my skills on display and having a conversation, I have never had an in-person interview and not got the job.
Thank y'all for helping me with my imposter syndrome.
It's not imposter syndrome.
What?
I'm just
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's so okay. This is the thing. A lot of times with the interview process, and even being someone who's had to conduct the interviews and stuff like that and do the hiring, a lot of people come to the interview and they're qualified for the job.
Yeah.
The reason why you got to the interview is because you're qualified. We looked at the paperwork and we believe that you're capable of doing this job. But for some reason, when you get to the interview, whether it's nerves or you haven't practiced or you caught off guard, you don't do a good enough job of articulating your impact for the role and just participating in the interview. And when someone else can better articulate their plan or their impact or whatever it is, it makes them stand out. Y'all could be equal on paper, but if we get in that room and I have a different language or different conversation than you, it could elevate me, in the interview process. Although you may even have more education, or whatever, more experience than me. But once I can start talking, sometimes that experience stuff goes out the window. Like people, when you get into interviews, like, and I know people harp on titles and all that stuff that they put on their resume. Like that stuff is good for getting there. Yeah. Once you get to the interview,
you got to talk the talk.
You got to talk the talk. You have to talk the talk. You have to be able to, walk the walk and all that other type of stuff when you go in the room. And sometimes, even if you don't have everything that the job description you would ask for on paper, if you can articulate why you may lack some of those, or if you can articulate the ones that are strong on your paper, I'll overlook the rest of that stuff. Like people don't, like I see people, they create a resume, they put their graduation year. I graduated with my bachelor's in 2007 to 2009 because that to them makes it seem like I've been educated for a long time. Right. So I'm qualified. I don't care when you got your degree. Did you get one? Did you get one? Yes or no? All right, you got one? Cool. I look at that. I look at titles really quickly to go. Like people skim the resume. Like if I'll use director of marketing for an example. If I see that we have a director of marketing position open, I'm looking at the resume. What quick titles can I see that align with this position? If I see that quickly on this thing and I can quickly see the skills, all right, I got it. Cool. I'll push it to the side. If I can't tell that story right away from the resume, decline. Because now I'm working too hard to put the pieces together. I'm getting a lot of applications. I ain't got time to read every single cover letter, whatever. So I'm skimming this resume quickly. By the time I find the stack that could meet the whatever, then I go through the interview process and I may ask more in-depth questions and learn about those people. And then that is where you really sell yourself, is in the interview, not necessarily on the resume.
Sometimes though, however, when it comes to people who get the interview, I have seen that we are just inviting people to be a part of it because we have to have at least 3 candidates.
That's true too.
Yeah, which is
legal.
I mean, you don't have to have 3 candidates.
They don't have to have 3 candidates, but they have to post the position and do interviews to make it seem like they had a fair hiring process.
Right.
Depending on if it's internal or external.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I seen a joint before where we were hiring for a coordinator and we interviewed someone with a doctoral degree.
What's wrong with that? What if they want to be a coordinator?
Okay. All right. Fair. It's the entry-level role that you don't even need a degree for.
What if they don't have entry? What if they only have entry-level experience because they've been a student?
They had experience.
No.
They had experience. And I'm like, why are we entertaining this? These people don't want the job. They want the opportunity that the job brings.
Isn't that why anybody would want the job?
Well, I mean, it's true.
Did you not hear yourself?
They don't want the job. They want the opportunities that the job brings.
No,
that sounds like a reason to take.
Sound like a reason to get a job. Yeah.
Make it make sense. So I think for you, Troy, I think that you're 100% qualified for a lot of these jobs, which is why you keep getting the interviews and why you keep getting the considerations. I think you just may be too far into your head about if you're qualified enough for the job when you go into the interview, and it may be impacting your ability to articulate, because you do a good job of articulating. You do it all the time, like with the pod, expressing value and things like that. But I think maybe going into the interview, you could potentially be getting nervous and just overthinking the process, and it may be holding you back from really displaying yourself the way you want to when you go in there. So then when you don't succeed, you leave feeling like, oh dang, I wasn't good enough for the role. But you are, because you keep getting asked, about it. So I think maybe even if it's just practicing what the interview questions may be, like even if you have to Google, like, what are some interview questions that I might get for this role, or even ask ChatGPT, like, what are some of the questions that I might get? And then you can kind of start practicing your replies to those questions. Like, that's one thing I know. Like, when you go into an interview, there's just certain things that you're going to get asked every time you go into an interview. Everyone's going to say, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. They'll say, I looked at your resume. I know, but tell me a little bit about yourself. And a lot of people stumble over, tell me about yourself.
Because they don't know, like, they can't, they know themselves.
Yeah, like they can't.
What's on the paper?
So like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself. Yes, tell me where you're from, all that. But don't give me my hobbies are golfing on the weekend and stuff like that.
I don't even want to hear that.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
in the interview process, I want to hear more
relevance to this role, what you did in your career, how you got here. Right.
Not even what's on paper, more so the intangible skill set. Let's talk about, okay, I'm a servant leader. This is how, particularly if you're doing like a leadership role, this is how I connect and engage with this population. This is how I lead people. This is how it's transferable to aspects of the work, etc. But as far as like you playing golf, I don't care nothing about that. I don't care how many cats you got. I don't care how many dogs you got.
But when they say that, it makes it like when I'm interviewing people, yes, tell me how you connect to this role. Most definitely. I do also want to know a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Why?
Like what's your favorite TV show?
I don't need to know that right now.
Why?
Like in this moment,
we're not
right
friends.
now,
we're not friends.
And I'm gonna keep it a thou wow with you. You've said this before. The majority of the jobs that we have, you don't even need a degree to do it.
No,
you don't need a degree.
Anything can be taught.
A lot of the times when I'm looking at candidates, first, and you're 100% right. If I looked at your resume and I invited you in for an interview, I know that you can do the job, right? I'm trying to see if you're gonna be a good fit.
Bias.
You're looking at cultural fit.
Cultural fit.
Not good.
I mean, that is
that's
important in the interview
reason.
process as well.
That's not
a good reason.
bias.
That's
it's
part
not a
of
good reason.
I definitely think that that's a quality aspect.
It's a terrible reason.
That's a quality
honest.
aspect of the.
It's not though.
It is.
But it's not.
How is that biased?
Because
you have to take culture fit into a
situation. What does that mean?
You have to take culture fit into consideration.
What does that mean, though?
I'm about to explain what Jesus Christ.
And I'm gonna tell you why it's biased.
Culture fit, it can be. I'm
it is.
I'm not disagreeing with. No, I'm not. It can be, but when you're talking about culture fit should be aligning with the company's culture code. So most companies have a culture code. These are our 6 principles.
Right.
Mm-hmm. These are the integrity, work ethic, whatever their 5 or 6 is.
Right.
That is considered the culture code for that place. So when I'm interviewing people for culture fit, I should be aligning my conversation with them based on, do they fit the 6 principles that we have, not on if I think he gonna sit well with Corey at the coffee pot and talk or whatever it is. And that is where I feel like
that's bias.
It could get biased.
Yes.
But if we're talking objectively, these are our core principles. Do I see those in this person as we're having this conversation?
And you think you can gauge that from one in-person interview?
I mean, you can ask some questions.
I think that there are certain things
but do people generally ask those questions? No, they don't.
Depending on the intent of the
right
interview.
now, where you work, if you ask somebody the mission statement of the place,
it ain't about the mission statement.
Ain't nobody gonna know the mission statement.
People not even living the mission, vision, values off rip. So they not asking those questions.
I would say in some environments.
So generally, when people are talking about culture fit, it's just like if I vibe with this person, if I like them in an interview, which is biased. That ain't got nothing to do with culture fit.
It could be a mix.
If you really think about it, all the interviews you sat in. Ain't nobody asked nothing about this is how this work aligns with. Nobody does that.
It's not about work. It's not necessarily about work. Like, okay, part of being a good interviewer is also being a good judge of character, which is also part of being a leader as well.
Sure.
And the more experience you have in that space, the more you're able to quickly identify intangibles in people versus not. So again, when you're talking about alignment with culture and the environment and culture fit, when I do interviews with people, once I realize that they have the experience, I could tell you have the experience. So I'm not wasting time a lot of the interview asking, tell me how you would handle blank situation.
Yeah, right.
I think that's irrelevant. I know that you have the experience. I know that you could do the job. We've clearly had a back and forth, and I know that you understand the language and how things are supposed to work. Now I need to get into these intangibles. I need to see how you will operate because I know this environment.
Correct.
I know what you're stepping into. I know what's necessary for this environment. So the questions that I may ask are going to be along the lines of, can I identify through these series of questions that I came up with, if this person is going to be a good culture fit in this space, because that is just as important as the skill set. And that is why a lot of work environments are terrible, because people are being hired for their skills and not necessarily for if they're good for this environment. There's more to a workplace than can they do this job.
I wholeheartedly agree.
So in some way, that's what I'm saying. It can be biased because we know that nepotism exists in the workplace as well. Are they cool? If I'm cool, you might get the job because we cool. But I don't think that we should just paint. I'll use one of your phrases: paint a broad brush with culture fit, because there are layers to that, conversation.
Correct. Because I mean, think about it too. What if we're talking culture? What if the work culture is trash, and I'm bringing A1 skills, experience, etc.? I'm not going to be a culture fit because your culture is trash.
Right.
What it do, though? It's your boy, Dr. Life Coach Lace, a.k.a. NBA Old Boy, a.k.a. I'm him, a.k.a. the menace no relation to Dennis. Look, stop what you're doing because I'm about to ruin. We need you to stop what you're doing right now. Subscribe to the potty. We know you love listening to us. We bring a lot of great content, great conversation, a lot of fun, jovial conversation across the board. So tap in with us. Make sure after you subscribe, please like, so that we can showcase that you care, that we care for you, and that we bring in the heat to everything that we do. So lock in with us, Manly D's Podcast. Share it with your entire community, your entire network, because we bring in the real to the real.